I just announced the primary winner in New York, and I'm getting a question. Thoughts on this? So guys, very quickly, thoughts on this. Let's be very clear here. This person did not win because he's a Muslim, but he won in spite of being a Muslim. And that is a civilizational victory. The campaigns launched against him explicitly brought in Islamophobia. Explicitly. There were websites that were calling him a jihadist, a stealth, this and that. There were literally the far right and the MAGA and the Trump supporters were literally saying that he's going to bring another terrorist attack, or he's going to do this and that. The most vile, blatant Islamophobic tropes were being used publicly against him. Yesterday he was interviewed by Stephen Colbert, and I posted this on my Twitter and Facebook. What blatant Islamophobia. Are you asking any other person of any other faith, how will the Muslims of New York feel? No, but because of him, how do you think the Jewish people of New York are going to feel? Nobody's asked about the Palestinians deserve a state. He was asked, what is your views on Israel? What has the New York mayor got to do with Israel? The Islamophobia reached to the highest levels, and still he won. But let's be clear, this is a historic moment, no question, and it is a sign of integration. It's a sign of civilizational strength, but it also presents its challenges. Many Muslims themselves are wondering, how can a Muslim be a mayor when they're going to have to do things that are morally ambiguous, right? Sometimes our biggest critics are not from without, they're from within. And this requires an internal conversation. And the answer is not easy, but very simplistic. I've spoken about this in more detail. Politicians are not clerics. And it is high time the Muslim community attains a level of intellectual sensibility to differentiate a politician from a cleric. It is a very positive sign that the two most cosmopolitan and most prestigious cities in the Western world, London and New York, have Muslim mayors. How can you not understand that this is a sign of integration and acceptance? And they weren't elected because they're Muslim, but they were both elected in spite of being Muslim in the Islamophobic climate, which means they were not just above average, they weren't just highly qualified, they were so highly qualified that they overcame the odds of being a Muslim. That is a very positive sign, and we should welcome and be thankful that this is a reality. As for the naysayers from without, well, this is not the time for gloating. There's never a time for gloating. This is not the time for arrogance. This is the time to win their hearts and minds. As for the naysayers from within, our own ranks, our overzealous fundamentalists, and for me this is a pet peeve in particular, we need to once again educate them. You can't expect the mayor of New York to give khutbahs and durus about the reality of Islamic law. That's not what his purpose is. And if he says or does things that is not in accordance with our Sharia, I'm not condoning that. And that's why I personally don't like myself to be involved in politics, because there is a compromise you have to make at the spiritual level. But at the same time, there is good in this as well. We hope that people of conscience, people of faith, maximize the good and minimize the evil. And we leave their affair to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But in this dunya, we cannot be so narrow-minded and so bigoted as to assume that a Muslim mayor is going to act and function as a Maulana Sahib, as an Imam Sahib. It doesn't work that way. And so where he does things we don't agree with, we don't support that issue. And we do not endorse that particular, whether it's a festival, whether it's a thing he goes to, whatever, we don't endorse that. But where he is showing the fact that you can be a qualified candidate and run a city and run an entire cosmopolitan city and be a Muslim, we thank Allah for that regard.